Some people spend their whole lives feeling like they pick up more than they should. They know things no one taught them. They sense a shift in a room before a single word is spoken. They feel connected to people, to places, to moments, in ways they can't explain, and have quietly learned not to mention. If that's you, you've probably wondered what's wrong with you, why you can't just take things at face value, why coincidences feel like messages, why being alone never quite feels like being alone. Here's a stranger question. What if nothing is wrong with you at all? There's an old idea, older than psychology, older than science, that keeps returning through the centuries. It says the mind is not a closed box, but something more like a require, tuned, focused, listening. And what it receives does not begin inside your skull. A Nobel Prize-winning physicist took this idea seriously. So did the man who mapped the depths of the unconscious. And 700 years ago, a German mystic said it in a single sentence so radical, the church never forgave him for it. We'll get to that sentence. But first, the signs. 8 of them. 8 quiet signals that your mind may be tuned into something larger than yourself. Before we begin, a question that sounds simple and is anything but. Where does consciousness live? The familiar answer says, in the brain. The brain produces the mind the way a factory produces light. Switch it off, and the light dies. But there is an older answer, a stubborn one. It has survived every century that tried to bury it. It says the brain does not generate consciousness. It receives it, tunes it, focuses it, the way a radio focuses a signal that was always in the air. Let's be honest with each other. This is not settled science. It is a hypothesis, a metaphysical one. No laboratory has proven it. But here is what makes it impossible to dismiss. Some of the most rigorous minds in history kept arriving at it, independently, reluctantly. A Nobel laureate who helped build quantum mechanics, the psychiatrist who mapped the unconscious, a medieval mystic who paid for it with his name. And if there is even a grain of truth in it, then the people who feel too much, who sense too much, who never quite fit the closed box model of the mind, were never broken. Their receiver is simply tuned finer. 8 signs. See how many you recognize. The first sign. Ideas come to you as if from somewhere else, not built piece by piece the way logic builds things. They arrive, whole, finished. You're in the shower, or walking, or half asleep, and suddenly the answer is simply there, as if it had been waiting for you to stop trying. Every creator knows this moment, the melody that appears unbidden, the sentence that writes itself, the solution that surfaces the instant you stop searching for it. We say, "It came to me." Listen to that phrase. We never say, "I made it." We say it came, as if from somewhere beyond us. Carl Jung spent his life studying exactly this. Beneath your personal memories, he argued, lies a deeper layer, the collective unconscious, a vast inheritance of images and patterns that no one ever taught you because you were born already carrying it. In his words, a psychic system identical in all of us. Which means the well you draw from may not be yours alone. And perhaps that's why these ideas feel less like inventions and more like memories. But ideas are only the beginning, because sometimes the world itself seems to answer. The second sign. Coincidences feel meaningful to you, not random. The right person appears at exactly the right moment. A book falls open to the sentence you needed. You finally decide to change your life, and the world, somehow, seems to rearrange itself around the decision. Most people shrug these moments off. You can't. Something in you refuses to. Carl Jung gave this experience a name: synchronicity. A meaningful coincidence. Two events connected not by cause, but by meaning. And he didn't develop the idea alone. He spent years discussing it with Wolfgang Pauli, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, one of the founders of quantum theory. Together they circled a radical possibility: that psyche and matter are not two separate worlds, but two faces of one underlying reality. Jung called it unus mundus, one world. If that is true, even partly, then a meaningful coincidence is not your imagination playing tricks. It is the seam, briefly showing. And if the world can answer, perhaps people can be heard before they speak. The third sign. You feel people beyond words. You sense a friend is struggling before they tell you. You think of someone you haven't seen in years, and that evening their name lights up your phone. You walk into a room and know, instantly, what happened there a minute before. Now, none of this proves telepathy. Let's keep our feet on the ground. But notice what the experience itself is whispering: that the wall between your mind and another's may be thinner than we were taught, porous, less like stone, more like mist. Psychology calls part of this empathy, attunement, pattern recognition. Fair enough. And yet those words describe the mechanism without quite touching the mystery. Why minds resonate at all. Why one consciousness can tremble when another one aches. Unless, of course, they were never entirely separate to begin with. Which brings us to the strangest sign of all, the moments when the border of you simply dissolves. The fourth sign. Sometimes the boundary of the self thins. In a forest, when the light falls a certain way. In music, when a chord opens something in your chest. In deep silence late at night. For a moment, you stop being a person looking at the world and become something the world is happening through. Most people have touched this at least once. You seem to live closer to it. Erwin Schrödinger, Nobel laureate, one of the fathers of quantum mechanics, took these moments seriously. In his book, What is Life?, he wrote a sentence that thinkers still argue about. Consciousness is a singular, of which the plural is unknown. Think about what he is claiming. Not that your consciousness resembles mine, that there may be only one, appearing as many, the way one moon is reflected in 1,000 lakes. What seems to be plurality, he wrote, is merely different aspects of one thing. A mystic could have said it. A physicist did. And if consciousness is one, then perhaps what you call intuition is not a guess at all. The fifth sign. Your intuition arrives before your reasoning. You know, and only afterwards can you explain. You meet someone, and something in you settles, or quietly closes, within seconds. You sense the right path long before you can defend it. Logic moves step by step, like a man with a lantern. Intuition arrives like lightning, the whole landscape at once. In the receiver picture, this makes a strange kind of sense. The signal comes first, the decoding comes after. Your conscious mind is not the source of the knowing, it is the translator, and translators are always a moment behind. Psychologists would say, your brain processes vast patterns beneath awareness, and that is true. But notice that even this explanation concedes the essential point. The deepest part of knowing does not feel like yours. And maybe that is why you cannot stop asking where it all comes from. The sixth sign. You are pulled toward the great questions, almost against your will. Not, how do I get ahead? But, why is there anything at all? Not, what should I do tomorrow? But, what is all of this for? Others find these questions exhausting. You find them magnetic. You can silence them for a while, career, errands, noise, but they always return, patient as the tide. A closed box has no reason to wonder what lies beyond itself, but a receiver is haunted by the signal. Something in you remembers there is more, and refuses to let you live as if there isn't. That refusal is not a flaw in your character. It may be the most honest thing about you. And here is where it turns strange. Because the closer you get to the answer, the less of you seems to be there. The seventh sign. Your deepest moments arrive when you forget yourself. Lost in work that absorbs you completely, caring for someone until your own worries go quiet, standing under a night sky, feeling your name simply fall away. Notice the paradox. The moments when you are most alive are the moments when the I is least present. Self-consciousness shrinks the world. Self-forgetting opens it. Every contemplative tradition discovered this. Modern researchers rediscovered it with stopwatches and brain scans and called it flow. The ego steps aside and something larger steps through. If the mind were a closed box, losing yourself should feel like dying. Instead, it feels like coming home. Which leaves one final sign, the quietest of them all. The eighth sign. Solitude feels different to you. You can be alone for hours and not feel abandoned. Lonely in a crowd sometimes, yet strangely accompanied in an empty room, as if connection for you does not depend on presence. People misread this. They call you distant, self-contained, hard to reach. But you know the truth from the inside. You are not withdrawing from the world. In solitude, you are listening to it. And this is the sign that gives the whole picture away. Because if the mind were truly a sealed room, silence should feel like a tomb. For you, it feels like a doorway. Something is on the other side of that door. 700 years ago, a man told us what. For most of your life, you've been told where to search. Look inside, they said. The answers are within you. Find yourself. Know yourself. Dig. So you dug. Journals, therapy, self-analysis at 2 a.m. And somewhere along the way, you may have noticed a quiet horror. The deeper you dug into the isolated self, the emptier it became. More questions, more anxiety, no floor. Here is the strange news. The problem was never the digging. The problem was the map, the assumption that inside and outside are two different countries. In the 13th century, a German friar named Meister Eckhart climbed into pulpits and said things no one was supposed to say. The church eventually put his words on trial, and the most dangerous of those words may have been these: "The eye through which I see God is the same eye through which God sees me. My eye and God's eye are one eye, one seeing, one knowing, one love." One eye, not two. Whatever name you give to the larger reality, God, being, the field, the whole, Eckhart's claim is the same. The watcher within you and the vastness around you meet in a single point of seeing. Which means the old argument, look inward or look outward, dissolves. Go deep enough into yourself, and you come out the other side. The bottom of the self is not a wall, it is a door. And this changes what it means to search for meaning. Meaning is not something you invent alone in the dark by digging harder. Meaning lives in connection, in the space between you and everything you touch. The search was never construction. It was tuning, remembering a connection that was already there. So let's return to you. All your life they had words for it. Too sensitive, overthinking, head in the clouds. You learned to hear those words as a diagnosis, something to fix, to manage, to hide. But consider, just consider, the other reading. A receiver that picks up more is not a broken receiver, it is a finer one. The sensitivity you were taught to apologize for may be the very thing that keeps you tuned to what others have learned to ignore. And the loneliness, the ache of feeling like the only one who senses all this, perhaps it was never the truth of your situation, only the experience of a receiver that hadn't yet understood what it was hearing. You can stop digging now, not because the depths don't matter, but because the connection you kept searching for inside was never locked in there. It was between you and the person across the table, between you and the work that absorbs you, between you and the night sky that keeps pulling your eyes upward. If ideas like this matter to you, if you want more journeys through the deep questions with honest science and the great minds as companions, a like and a subscription genuinely help this channel grow and help these ideas find the people who are quietly waiting for them. And until next time, one thought to carry. Maybe you were never as alone as it felt. You were simply tuned to a frequency most people never stop to hear. Thank you for listening and for being one of the ones who hears it.